Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place where we take your sources, unpack them, and pull out those really key nuggets of knowledge.
Mm.
And today, we're diving deep into something I think a lot of us wrestle with. Why do we eat when we're not actually hungry? And maybe more importantly, how can we stop?
Yeah.
We're pulling insights from Judson Brewer's book, The Hunger Habit, Why We Eat When We're Not Hungry and How to Stop.
And this is a deep dive that I think is going to feel incredibly relatable for so many people listening.
Yeah, I think so too.
You might really see yourself in the patterns, the stories we'll talk about, maybe feeling out of touch with your body's signals or kind of trapped in that cycle of restricting, then binging.
Ugh, yeah, exhausting.
Totally. But what we're going to uncover is how simple awareness, just paying attention, can actually be a shortcut to some really profound change.
Okay, so let's unpack that common experience then. The book, it kicks off with Jockey's story. She was caught in this restrict binge cycle that kept getting shorter.
Right, tighter and tighter.
Yeah, from months down to weeks. Eventually, it was like daily. She'd count calories religiously in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
only to end up gorging on donuts, chips, Chinese takeout by the afternoon, then waking up just choked with guilt, feeling like a failure.
Yeah, and that feeling, that loss of control, the shame, the self-blame, it's so incredibly common.
It really is.
So many people, whether it's clinically or just anecdotally, they struggle because they feel they just can't resist certain foods, the bad ones.
Right.
Or they can't stop once they start. Or they micromanage every single bite until suddenly they just, tear open a bag of chips and eat the whole thing.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating and kind of heartbreaking is this deep feeling that we've done this to ourselves.
Right. We inflicted it.
Yeah, which leads straight to self-judgment, to shame.
Mm.
And that's amplified, of course, by a culture that really prizes thinness and self-control.
And it's not purely internal, is it? I mean, the food industry seems to have a hand in this too.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about that Lay's slogan, "Betcha can't eat just one." That came out in 1963.
Wow.
Which, get this, was the exact same year Weight Watchers started.
No way.
Yeah.
That's quite a coincidence.
Isn't it? And the book even highlights this formula for, quote, a food designed to addict, salt plus fat squared satisfying crunch X pleasing mouthfeel.
Right. Hyperpalatable foods.
It really shows how food can be engineered to make us fail, basically hijacking our own survival mechanism.
Precisely. And that leads to what Brewer calls the hungry ghost phenomenon.
Okay.
When we eat because of emotions or boredom or, anything but actual physical hunger, well, our stomachs aren't empty.
Right.
But we still feel this bottomless pit. We're feeding our wants instead of meeting our needs.
So you never feel truly full.
Never truly satisfied. And the kicker is the regret, the indignation, the shame that follows, that actually becomes another trigger. It reinforces the cycle.
Right. The shame triggers more comfort eating.
Yeah.
Vicious. So, if you've tried, like most people, to fix your relationship with food, you probably know the rules. You know what you should do.
Mm-hmm. All the advice.
But why does it feel like we just fail? Why can't we stick to it?
Well, the crucial message here is, it is not your fault. You're not weak. You're not hopeless.
Okay.
It's the system we've been sold, the one built on willpower, on measuring everything, on rigid self-control. That system has failed us.
Right.
Research actually casts serious doubt on this idea that willpower is like a muscle you can just build up.
Interesting.
Yeah, studies show people who exert more self-control often end up feeling more depleted, more exhausted.
Ah.
And it can actually be counterproductive in the long run. It backfires.
Okay, that makes sense why willpower feels so draining. So that's where the whole calories in, calories out, or CITO thing gets into trouble.
Exactly. It sounds logical, right?
Error.
Burn more than you eat.
Yeah, simple math.
But restricting calories directly fights our basic survival programming. Our body thinks, uh-oh, starvation.
And slams on the brakes.
Pretty much. It slows down metabolism. And as neuroscientist Sandra Amat points out, historically, starvation was a much bigger danger than overeating.
Right, survival mode.
So our brains are hardwired to try and regain lost weight, just in case. And this ties into tracking and measuring.
Which feels like control.
Right. It creates an illusion of control. Our brains hate uncertainty. It signals danger.
Right.
So tracking gives us all this data, this feeling of certainty.
Mm-hmm.
But then Goodhart's law comes in. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure.
Meaning?
meaning we get totally fixated on the number like hitting 10,000 steps, and we stop listening to our actual body.
Right, like that guy Martin Lewis averaging 25,000 steps but feeling like a failure if he only hit 10,000.
Exactly. That obsession leads to judgment, leads to shame, and boom, you're back in the cycle.
Okay, so traditional methods often fail because they fight our biology and can create these negative feedback loops. So what is actually going on in our brains when these habits form?
Well, our brains are incredibly good at forming habits. It's a survival thing. The author breaks it down really simply. Triggered behavior result reward.
Trigger, behavior, reward. Got it.
For our ancestors, finding calorie-dense food was like hitting the jackpot. Think about a baby tasting ice cream for the first time.
Pure joy.
Pure joy, a huge squirt of dopamine sending that message. Whoa, remember this, eat more. That's positive reinforcement.
Okay, so that's learning what feels good, but what about learning what to avoid? How does that play into eating habits now?
Right, negative reinforcement is just as powerful, maybe even faster. If something tastes rotten, you spit it out instinctively. Danger signal.
Makes sense.
But here's the interesting twist. Our modern brain can lump things like, say, your boss yelling at you, or anxiety about a doctor's visit, into that same danger category.
Ah, so stress becomes a danger signal.
Exactly. And we might try to avoid that unpleasant feeling, often by seeking comfort in food.
And when those big emotions hit, like stress or anger, you mentioned our planning brain, the prefrontal cortex kind of checks out.
Yeah, it can go offline, temporarily overwhelmed.
So what takes the wheel?
The older, more primal survival brain steps in,
Mm-hmm.
and it often defaults to what it knows works quickly for comfort food. It has that exquisite taste for food to entertain us, distract us, make us feel better right now.
That's how those food mood wires get crossed.
Precisely. We're not solving the stress, we're just temporarily soothing it with eating.
And then there's the part called the orbitofrontal cortex, the OFC, the decider. How does that fit into habits?
The OFC is constantly weighing options. Is this behavior helping me survive or not? It creates this reward hierarchy.
Like a ranking of what feels best.
Sort of, yeah. And it relates to this explore versus exploit idea. Do I try something new, which takes energy but might be better?
Yeah.
Or stick with what I know, the safe bet?
Exploit the known reward.
Exactly. And that tendency to exploit familiar, even if unhelpful, habits makes them really hard to break. But the key is we can give the OFC new information to update that hierarchy.
Okay, so there is good news. There's a way out.
Ah.
And it's not about fighting bad habits, but understanding unhelpful habits.
Right.
The book lays out this 21-day challenge based on decades of research, 3 parts. Identify the patterns, interrupt them with awareness, not willpower,
Crucial distinction.
and then leverage your brain to build new, better habits.
Yeah, and it's grounded in science. Studies from the author's own lab show how powerful awareness really is. It's not just fluff. It's a tool.
Okay, part 1, identifying eating habit patterns. First step is mapping those food habit loops. What does that practically involve?
It means getting clear on the why, the what, and the how of your eating.
Why, what, how?
The why is the trigger, the urge, the craving, the situation. The what is the specific food you reach for. And the how is the way you eat it mindlessly, quickly, secretly.
Right.
The less we pay attention, the more these loops run on autopilot, becoming these subconscious habits. Take Jack in the book. His loop, trigger. See, corn nuts. Behavior. Mindlessly eat corn nuts. Result. Satisfy the urge. Simple.
Sounds simple, but seeing it mapped out.
It's like flipping on a light switch, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly you see the pattern clearly, whether it's corn nuts or emotional eating when you feel down. It brings clarity without having to dig into like deep childhood stuff necessarily.
And a key tool here is the hunger test. How does that help distinguish real hunger from something else?
The hunger test helps you figure out, is this urge coming from my stomach? Or is it coming from my head, my emotions, my environment?
Like stress, boredom.
Exactly. Stress, boredom, loneliness, habit. Our brain interprets signals, remember? It doesn't feel hunger directly like the stomach does. So the test helps you tune in.
Okay.
Think of Tracy, the student pounding carrots during stressful homework.
Right, the carrots.
It wasn't hunger. It was anxious energy, needing an outlet, needing to crunch. That taught her, critically, that how we eat is often more important than what we eat.
So this builds that interoceptive awareness you mentioned earlier, like an internal GPS.
Exactly that. Tuning into the body's subtle signals rumbling, energy levels, tension, instead of just external cues or thoughts telling you to eat. You might even find, hey, this is actual hunger, or nope, this craving is just a thought pattern.
Okay, so we've mapped the loop. Part 2 is interrupting with awareness. How does simply paying attention break these ingrained habits?
Because the only way to change a habit loop is to update the reward value in your brain. You do that by paying really close attention to how rewarding or maybe unrewarding the behavior actually is now.
So your brain gets new data, a prediction error.
Exactly. A negative prediction error is your brain going, huh, that wasn't as good as I remembered. The author talks about gummy worms.
Oh, yes, the gummy worm.
Loved them for years.
Yeah.
High reward value. But when he started really paying attention while eating them,
What happened?
he noticed they weren't actually that great. He started wondering what he ever saw in them. Became less and less enchanted. That disenchantment broke the habit.
Disenchantment. I like that.
Same with eating past fullness out of fear of running out of energy. Paying attention showed him it wasn't necessary.
So this leads directly to mindful eating, which isn't just eating slowly like a Martian with a raisin.
Huh. No, not necessarily. Slowing down can help, sure. But the core is awareness and curiosity.
Okay.
You can eat mindfully anywhere, even quickly. It's about checking in. Why am I reaching for this? And then paying attention to the results, taste, fullness, how you feel after.
The mindful eating questionnaire in the book probably highlights how often we eat distracted.
Totally. Or because the clock says it's lunchtime, not because we're hungry. When you're truly paying attention, savoring, it's much harder to just shovel food in.
Like Tracy loving those pumpkin truffles as a kid, eating them slowly.
Exactly. That was natural mindful eating.
And the body scan practice, how does that anchor us and help sort hunger from emotion?
The body scan is great for grounding yourself in the present. You systematically bring awareness to sensations throughout your body.
Boosts that interoceptive awareness again.
Right. Helps you differentiate. Is this tightness in my chest hunger? Or is it anxiety? Anne's anger burger story is perfect.
At McDonald's.
Yeah, she was furious after a call. Drove straight there, planning to binge. But she paused, dropped into her body, did a quick scan, and realized, I'm not hungry. I'm just really, really mad.
And that awareness stopped the impulse.
It gave her the space to choose differently. She turned around.
Wow. Then there's the pleasure plateau. This concept really hit me.
It's a game changer, isn't it? Dana Small's chocolate study showed it clearly. Liking goes down, wanting goes down a lot after a certain point.
We all know that feeling, right? The first bite is amazing, the fifth is meh.
Exactly. We shoot right off the cliff into discomfort or regret. Awareness helps us notice we're approaching the plateau when we've actually had enough.
Before we go over the edge?
Right. Satiety signals take 15-20 minutes to register, so paying attention gives them time. Like King Passanati learning to know their measure.
So each time you pay attention and realize maybe that habit wasn't so great, you're adding to your disenchantment data bank.
Precisely. Collecting evidence. It doesn't make tasty food bad. It just adjusts the wanting for certain things based on the actual results.
What if you miss the moment? You eat mindlessly, then feel bad. Can you still learn?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where retrospectives come in. Look back later,
Yeah.
ask yourself, okay, what did I really get from that?
Like Jack looking back at overeating the salad?
Yeah. Even a healthy food can be unpleasant if overeaten. He remembered the bloating, the discomfort. That retrospective builds the data bank too. And regret, unlike shame, can be useful information for next time.
Okay, makes sense. But what about when the craving hits hard in the moment? Is there a tool for that?
Yes. The craving tool, part 2.
Yeah.
This isn't just thinking about it.
Okay.
You notice the craving. Then you vividly imagine eating the food. And then this is key. Vividly imagine the result. How you feel 10 minutes later, an hour later. Bloated, guilty, tired.
Using past experience to predict the future.
Exactly. Tapping into that disenchantment data you've collected. Jockey found that incredibly helpful.
And then there's RAIN. R-A-I-N. What does that stand for?
Rain on the Craving Monsters Parade. It's recognize the craving. Allow and accept it's there. Investigate how it feels in your body. And nurture yourself.
Allow and accept. That seems counterintuitive. Don't you fight cravings?
That's the old way. Fighting cravings often makes them stronger, right? They feed on the struggle.
Yeah, that feels true.
Rain encourages you to just be with the feeling, investigate it with curiosity, like Mary Beth learning to write out the banana split craving instead of automatically giving in.
And she reduced craving-related eating by 40%.
Yeah, allowing and investigating disarms the craving. Nurturing yourself offers a different kind of comfort.
And for the Ayn Rand investigation, the book talks about noting. How does that work?
Noting is about labeling your experience in the moment, just observing and categorizing. Seeing, hearing, feeling, body sensation, smelling, tasting, or thinking.
So if you feel anxious, you just note, anxiety or tightness.
Exactly. Or if a critical thought pops up, just note thinking.
Mhm.
It creates distance. You
Yep.
see the thought or feeling come and go instead of being the thought or feeling.
Like watching clouds pass by.
Perfect analogy. The author used it for panic attacks, just noting panic, restlessness. As his teacher said, note your ass off.
Huh. Got it. Consistent observation. And finally, fire your committee. Those inner critics.
Yeah, those judgmental voices, naming them like judgmental Jonas helps you see them as just thoughts, not you.
The observer effect observing changes the relationship.
Precisely. Tasha, who binged because of shame, learned to just observe her self-judgment. Ah, there's the judge again. That observation broke the binge shame cycle.
Okay, so we've identified the loops, interrupted them with awareness tools like RAIN and noting. Part 3 is finding a bigger, better offer, or BBO.
Right, replacing the old, unrewarding habit with something genuinely better.
And this is fueled by curiosity, but a specific kind.
Yeah, interest curiosity. Not deprivation curiosity, which focuses on what's lacking. Interest curiosity is about the journey, being open, exploring what truly nourishes you.
Because once you're disenchanted with the old habit,
Your brain naturally looks for something better. The OFC, the decider, wants the highest reward. You just need to show it what that is. As Michael Pollan says, memory is the enemy of wonder. We need fresh eyes.
how does leveraging the food-mood relationship help find a BBO?
By paying attention to how different foods actually make you feel afterwards. Not just the initial taste. The author noticed soda and donuts made him feel terrible icky.
Right, that direct feeling.
But a peanut butter and honey sandwich before biking. Sustained energy, better mood, better performance. That's a clear BBO his brain could latch onto.
The blueberry experiment really drives this home too, right? Gummy worms versus blueberries.
Exactly. He paid close attention. Gummy worms. Sickly sweet hint of petroleum.
Yeah.
Blueberries. Perfect balance of mouthfeel, taste, satisfaction.
Huge difference when you actually notice.
And the natural sugar in fruit, with fiber, gives steady energy, contentment, not a spike and crash. Your brain knows the real deal when you let it pay attention.
And the ultimate BBO, maybe the most powerful, is kindness. How does that work?
Kindness is essential,
Mm.
especially breaking that binge shame cycle. Self-judgment is often just another ingrained habit, right? A weirdly familiar comfort zone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Kindness interrupts it. It allows you to accept your experience without adding that layer of judgment. Simple phrases like, may I be happy, may I be healthy, practiced regularly, can shift things.
Like Tasha, the pizza patient. Kindness helped her stop binging.
Almost entirely. She realized pizza wasn't the enemy, the shame was. With kindness, she could enjoy one piece without spiraling. Pizza became just pizza again.
That's powerful. We should also mention the note about trauma. Eating patterns can sometimes be protective.
Absolute crucial. If eating habits developed as a way to cope with trauma, maybe numbing feelings, that's not a character flaw, it's a survival
So
mechanism.
it's not about forcing change, but maybe using grounding.
Exactly. Practices like five-finger breathing can help calm the nervous system, the thinking brain back online, and gently help recalibrate those danger signals from the past. It requires compassion.
So all these practices, awareness, curiosity, kindness, they build trust in yourself. Not blind faith, but evidence-based trust.
Precisely. It's trust built from your own experience. Your disenchantment data bank shows you what doesn't work anymore. Your enchantment data bank, finding those BBOs, shows you what does.
Like Tracy saying the results felt irreversible. She didn't have to convince herself anymore. She just knew it from experience.
That's the goal. You move from trying to control to simply knowing what truly serves you.
So ultimately, the real ultimate BBO is shifting from constantly feeding wants to meeting genuine needs.
Yeah, moving up Maslow's hierarchy, you could say.
Yeah.
And curiosity becomes this superpower. Cravings aren't enemies, they become teachers. The obstacle really does become the way.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much how our brains work, why willpower fails, the power of the food industry, but also the truly transformative potential of just paying attention, being curious, and treating ourselves with kindness. It's really not about fighting our bodies.
No, it's about working with our incredibly wise and adaptable brains.
Mm.
And as we heard, the changes can feel irreversible once you really engage.
Yeah.
You learn to trust your body, listen to its wisdom, find real contentment without that constant struggle. It's about having truly unforced freedom of choice with food.
Living a life where food is, a source of pleasure and connection, not this constant judgment on who you are.
Exactly.
So for everyone listening, maybe the final thought is this. What if, instead of just wanting to stop that habit, you got genuinely curious about the very next craving you feel? How might that simple shift start to redefine everything?
Hmm.
The path out of that food jail really might start just by taking it one moment, one bite, one breath at a time.